Alright guys, so that is a really interesting video here. This video is from the Tech Brews game. He's got 981 subscribers. So go check him out if you like this content, because that is a really interesting topic here. How SimCity's failure led to the creation of Cities Skylines, one of the all-time great, if not the best city builder game that there is out there. So let's have
It's
a
a
look.
cold March day in 2013. I was a 20-year-old college student still living with my parents.
Yeah.
On this day, my parents happened to be out of town and had left me with some money to buy food while they were away. I had used some of the money to buy several Little Caesars hot and ready pizzas.
That's what you do when you're 20 years old. You buy a lot of junk food and lots of crazy shit. Because you don't know what's good for you when you're 20.
And I still had about $60 left to get me through the rest of the week. But I had no intention of spending that money on food for myself. No, I was going to use that money to buy a game I had been dreaming about for almost a year.
Yeah, Oscar, in 2013, you could have bought ships in for Star Citizen, right?
I hopped in my car and headed down to the local GameStop to pick up a copy of SimCity. I had to go to GameStop because I only had cash. And as we all know, Origin doesn't accept cash.
Yeah, that's so sad. I don't think they even accept PayPal, right? Yeah, where I'm from, we don't have GameStop, but we had other types of shops that sold games. I bought SimCity online back in those days. It was already online.
I installed the game as soon as I got home and was instantly disappointed.
That's how I felt too. It was quite a letdown, didn't work, and it just didn't look very good too, I think.
You see, when SimCity first came out, there was...
I mean, it looks so cartoonish. It was for me, that was such a letdown compared to SimCity 4 in terms of scale, in terms of looks, in terms of complexity. I didn't like it. From day one, I didn't like it. It was just, yeah, such a disappointment. But anyway, let's continue here.
No offline mode. The game had to be played with an internet connection, which may have been acceptable if EA had enough servers for everyone to play on.
And especially, we're talking about 2013. Not everybody had optic fiber. I remember where I lived, I lived at my parents' house too in 2013. The internet absolutely sucked. I was complaining all the time. It disconnected all the time, and when it worked, it was so slow, and it was shared by all the computers, my sisters, my brothers, my parents, Oh my gosh, it was so horrible.
I had to wait for close to 30 minutes just to get onto a server to play a single-player game.
Yeah,
Luckily,
right.
my sister who lived across...
Can you imagine playing a single-player game, but being frustrated by your own connectivity? That's so bad.
The country pitied me and ordered me a Pizza Hut big dinner box so that I could eat my sorrows away. Little did I know at the time that the absolute dumpster fire of a release for SimCity would be directly responsible for bringing about one of my all-time favorite games and a sequel that I am hoping will be the ultimate city building game.
Go. City Skylines 2 coming up.
The American dream is dead. Gone are the days when you could work hard, buy a house, and support a family.
I'm going to edit this out. Really cool.
So let's travel back in time a little bit, to June 1982 to be specific. A new game for the Intellivision has just been released, and it's called Utopia. Utopia is a two-person strategy game where players control an island where they spend gold to build different buildings. As the population grows, the player is responsible for taking care of the people and keeping them happy. If they don't keep those people happy, rebel activity would hurt the player's score. Utopia was the start of a new genre, the city builder. Jump ahead almost 7 years to February of 1989 when SimCity was introduced. Developed by Will Wright and published by his company Maxis, SimCity laid the groundwork for all future builders to follow.
Oh, I remember SimCity. I remember when I was a little boy and my dad wanted to buy SimCity, and I was like, what's this? It doesn't seem very interesting. I was just a little kid. I had no idea. And then when I was a little bit older, I actually played the original SimCity on the Super Nintendo.
SimCity was a huge step up compared to previous attempts at a city builder. Featuring overhead 2D graphics, you could now build the cities of your dreams. SimCity introduced numerous new features, including the RCI demand bar, power grids, roads, public services, disasters, and the most important part of running a city, taxes. SimCity was an immersive game that allowed you to micromanage every aspect of running a city, all in an effort to maintain your Sims' standard of living while keeping your city out of bankruptcy. SimCity went on to sell several million copies and was released on 27 different platforms.
Wow. 27, that is a lot. That's why I played on Super Nintendo.
It is recognized as one of the most influential video games of all time.
Absolutely, especially with all the different offsprings that it brought, right?
Between 1989 and 1993, 5 new city builders had been released. However, none of them were able to recapture the success of the 1989 release of SimCity. This led Will Wright and Maxis to develop a sequel. SimCity 2000 was released in
I played so many hours of this when I was
1993 to the starving fans of city builders. Just like with the original SimCity, SimCity 2000 made huge advancements for the genre of city builders. 2000 featured an isometric perspective compared to the top-down view.
Cool. And I love the buildings also. I love how they looked and how you ended up having cities that looked quite elaborate for what they were.
Which gave the game a more 3D look to it. With the new view, land could now have different elevations as well as underground layers for subways and water systems. The player could now connect their city to neighboring cities with highways to grow their population and increase their trade. The following year, Maxis released an expansion pack to SimCity 2000 called Scenarios Volume 1 Great Disasters. This expansion had several new scenarios based around disasters that destroy a city. The player is then responsible for rebuilding the city to its former glory. SimCity 2000 went on to be one of the most popular games of the 90s, selling over 4.2 million copies and solidifying SimCity as
4.2 million copies. We're talking about the mid-1990s. That was a huge number back in those days. You have to put things in their perspective, right? I mean, even still today, 4 million copies is a commercial success, but can you imagine in the mid-1990s, how much money that represented? This is just insane. Anyway, let's continue here.
The go-to city builder. 6 years and 16 city builders later, Maxis stepped back into the ring to release its next uppercut to the jawline of its competition. SimCity 3000 was released on February 1st, 1999, and in my opinion, it was the high point for the series.
And I was so shocked. I remember when it came out, I thought it was a joke, because I was still playing a lot SimCity 2000, still enjoying it a lot. Sorry if I'm coughing, I've got COVID, by the way. So I was really enjoying SimCity 2000, and then I went to a computer game shop, and out of the blue, I see this one. I was like, what? There's a new SimCity that came out? And it looks
3000
so
brought
much
with
better,
it
right?
numerous new features. The player now had to deal with all the trash that the Sim...
And especially, you could see the traffic in real. It's not like random cars popping in and out. These were actual traffic cars, right? Which were physicalized models that were in the game.
In their city produced. In addition, farms were added to the game and they would appear on large, light industrial plots of land with low population. Power plants and water facilities now had lifespans and had to be replaced as they deteriorated over time.
Yeah, that was annoying.
Players now had interactions with their computer neighbor cities. The players could negotiate business deals with mayors of other cities to either buy or sell services such as water or trash services.
Oh, this was so cool.
Land value now affected the construction of buildings. Your city could now have well-defined wealthy, middle class, and lower class areas, all based on the land value of the area. 3000.
I also like the little low density houses there. They look so much like what you would find in European villages. See you, Oscar. See you next time. Thank you so much for coming today.
Also introduced real-world landmarks, such as the CN Tower, Empire State Building, the Eiffel Tower, and more to the game. SimCity 3000 also featured a live music soundtrack, which featured mostly
it was
new
so
age
good.
and live jazz songs. SimCity 3000 had sold 5 million copies by 2007.
Wow, that was even more than 2000. I didn't know it was they sold more copies than 2000.
For me, SimCity 3000 holds a special place in my heart. It was my first ever city builder game as a kid. My sister and I bought it from the Scholastic Book Fair at our elementary school. I always loved building up a thriving metropolis and then destroying it, just for fun.
I mean, who hasn't done that, right? It's also fun to do that in City Skylines as well.
Just 4 years after SimCity 3000, Maxis, now owned by EA, released the 4th installment in the series.
Look at the difference between 3000 and SimCity 4.
SimCity 4. SimCity 4 was the first city builder to use a 3D engine to render its graphics.
Yeah, this was the best of the series. Oh, I think this one I've played so much. Even I think I played this game all the way until City Skylines came out.
And it looked great. While a strain on many people's computers, it still managed to be one of the top-selling games in 2003.
Yeah, but I think that one of the drawbacks with SimCity 4 is that it was poorly optimized. I had a lot of computer crashes and freezes with this game. Lots of frustration. You have to save very often.
3. SimCity 4 was also the first SimCity game to feature a day-night cycle. SimCity 4 now featured 3 game modes: God Mode, Mayor Mode, and My Sim Mode.
And I like the night cycle in SimCity 4 because it was not that dark, so you could still see your city and build even though it was nighttime. I think that nighttime in City Skylines is a little too dark.
SimCity 4 received mostly positive reviews, however many players found that the game was more difficult compared to previous SimCity games.
That's fine.
After SimCity 4, SimCity fans had to wait an excruciating 10 long years.
Now that's not true. He forgot SimCity Society, which was also terrible.
Before the new SimCity was released. The 5th installment in the SimCity series was once again called SimCity. During the lead up to the release, the game had quite a bit of hype behind it. The graphics were reported to be fantastic.
Well, no, they were not fantastic.
And
they were
many
way too
fans
cartoonish.
of the SimCity series were excited to play the next installment. The game was released to the masses on March 5th, 2013, and all the hype led to an absolute dumpster fire of a game launch. Among other problems, the biggest issue was the game's need for a persistent internet connection, even for a single-player game.
I mean, look at this. No, that does not look good at all. SimCity 4 looks much better than this. I'm sorry.
In addition, EA's servers couldn't keep up with the demand, which caused widespread outages, long loading times, and disconnections, which led players to losing their saved game data.
Typical Electronic Arts. Typical. They should have just let it as a normal single player game, because they were doing that because they were afraid that people would be hacking the game. That's why, right? When you're playing a single, you want realistic graphics exactly so, right? And that's why I believe that we are going to be really excited and pleased here with the new City Skylines 2 that's coming up later this year.
An unexpected move, EA offered a free game on Origin to early purchasers of SimCity. I got myself a free copy of Need for Speed Most Wanted.
I got a copy. I got also a copy of Need for Speed. It was not Most Wanted. It was another one. But yeah, I also got a free copy of Need for Speed.
A game that I played more than SimCity. Over a year after the launch of the game, EA released a patch that allowed offline mode for SimCity. But by this time, many players had given up on the game and no longer had an interest in playing. Even with all the launch problems, the game managed to sell over 1 million copies in the first 2 weeks.
Only one, yeah, in the first 2 weeks, 1 million copies, yeah, but after that, how many?
After the failure of SimCity, EA shut down the Emeryville studio of Maxis, and no work on a new entry in the series has been done.
That is such a tragic end. I mean, the series deserves so much better. It deserves so much better.
However, fans of the city builder genre were in luck. Following the colossal failure of the new SimCity, a new city builder entry from a new player was only 2 years away. The good people at Colossal Order were watching the dumpster fire at Maxis closely. Colossal Order already had a game called Cities in Motion.
Yeah, Yes, they had. I played Cities in Motion. I mean, it's okay, but for me, it was too boring. I didn't like it so much. I mean, it looked fine, but there was not a lot going on.
Which was a transportation simulation game. They knew that they could make a full city builder game, but didn't want to try and compete with the monster of a series, SimCity.
Now, of course, you got SimCity coming out. Nobody wants to compete against the main like that. But if the name is failing, if the brand is collapsing, then, the gates are open.
The new SimCity was released, and it was clear that the game was a critical failure. Paradox greenlit Colossal Order to create a full city builder game, and thus Cities Skylines was born. Cities Skylines was released on March 10th, 2015 to very positive reviews.
Now, it's got the cartoonish looks of SimCity, but it's much more serious, and it works much better as well. That's why it became a success.
While the game lacked some features of SimCity, it was a well put together game where players could build monster cities and micromanage every aspect of running a city. This was the city builder that players had wanted. Over the last 8 years,
I remember when it came out, I bought it I played it day one, and that was such a relief. It's exactly how I felt also. When I started making my cities, I was like, oh, why wasn't SimCity like this?
16 DLCs were made for the game. The DLCs greatly expanded the game and what you could do with it. Cities Skylines has been Paradox's best-selling game.
And the awesome thing is, as I'm looking at what's going on with Cities Skylines 2, a lot of the content from the DLCs of the first Cities Skylines are going to come with Cities Skylines 2 for free. And that's actually some great policy, right? They're not going to put those DLCs and new DLCs in Cities Skylines 2. Of course, there's going to be DLCs in Cities Skylines 2, but they're going to have to find new ideas, new creative ways to add features to the game. And that is professional.
As of June 2022, the game had sold 12 million copies.
Oh, take that, EA. 12 million copies. That is so much more.
Dwarfing the sales of its competitor, SimCity.
There you go.
And that leads us to today. Less than 4 months away from the release date for Cities Skylines 2. A new entry that promises, if you can dream it, you can build it. Skylines 2 is a major step up in terms of graphics for the series. And
it's a major step up. I mean, we made a couple of videos already on the channel. It's a major step up in every single
looks to have even more control over your citizens' lives. Without the failure of SimCity, we never would have
It looks so good. Do you see that traffic cars will have accidents?
gotten the best city builder, Cities Skylines. I, for one, am grateful for EA's incompetence, as it brought us a much better game. What do you think of Cities Skylines? Will you be buying Cities Skylines?
That's one way of saying it, being grateful for EA's incompetence.
Skylines 2? My name is Gage, and this has been a TBG video. Thank you very much for watching.
Well, I'm definitely subscribing and liking this video. This was a great video, guys. I'll put a link in the description down below. I pre-ordered Cities Skylines 2. What about you guys? Let me know in the comment section down below. With that comes the end of this live stream. I can't take it anymore. My throat is starting to become very painful here. Sorry, yeah, I got COVID, so yeah. It's time to finish this. But thank you for being here, guys. I hope that the mask did not put you off too much, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.